All right. We're going to roll right into our next session with Miss Terri Belknap. Terri is a certified speech language pathologist. She's starting her 20th year in the school setting this year, so lots of experience there. She's worked across school districts in Texas, South Carolina, and now Louisiana. This is her third year to be working on the assistive technology team, and that's a project of the Louisiana State Department of Education. She's also served as an adjunct clinical supervisor in the Louisiana Tech Speech and Hearing Center for the last 7 years. So Terri, take it away.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm trying to share my screen, so let me get set up for a minute. Okay. Thank you for having me here today. Like Amber said, I'm going to be speaking to you today about assistive technology. And of course, there's so much to talk about when we talk about assistive technology. So, of course, I cannot cover all of that in this hour time, but I hope to change your mindset and open up some new ways of thinking about assistive technology and maybe relieve some fears that we often have about assistive technology. So I'm going to talk a little bit first about my project so that you can know who we are and how we are available to you. I'm not sure if Amber was able to put in the chat box the link to our sign-in, but if she didn't, I want to call your attention. When you get the presentation, you will get this slide deck. If you go to our website, this link right here, it's going to open up. Let me do this. Okay, so this is our website, and if you go to professional development, sign in, you're going to get a link to this form. If you could please fill this out, all that are in attendance, you'll click on the drop-down menu, go down to Autism Summit Assistive Technology, and just fill this form out. This helps the State Department track who is attending our presentations, and will help allow us to have our project be funded in the future. So if you could take a minute to do that, that would be super. That is a picture of our team. And while we're here at our website, I'll call your attention to, if you need us and you have something that you want us to do, you will come to our website and click on this service request form. And it comes to everyone on our team across the state. And then we each have parishes that we are responsible for. So we will get back to you. And if you also see, look for, on the screen, there was just a thing that said Click or Treat. It's a big virtual conference that we are having in October. So if you have a chance to fill that out, that would be great. To tell you a little bit about us, we are Louisiana Accessible Educational Materials. We were formerly Lottie, so if you knew about us a couple of years ago, that is how you would have known us. We have 5 service centers across the state. This is just kind of where we're housed, but each one of us go out to around 13 parishes. And we are here to support your students that have assistive technology needs. We do student consults, we do teacher consults, teacher trainings, SLP trainings, district trainings, you name it. We are here to support you in the area of assistive technology. We also have a lending library. Be patient with us at the start of this school year, because with the way the spring went, we have not picked up equipment from last year. So we're going to have to kind of re-inventory and get things out. But do know that we have a lending library. So if you have something that you're wanting to try for your student, you can always check that out and try it for a period of time before you then use it for, before you use your district's money to purchase something. So that's who we are. Oh gosh, let's see. Okay, so today's objectives. first, I just want to take a short minute to talk about the difference in assistive technology and educational technology. With all the talk and all the virtual learning, I just want to be sure that we understand the difference in assistive technology and educational technology. I'm going to define the benefits of assistive technology for students with autism and discuss the challenges and obstacles for those students in participation. And then we're going to look at some considerations of AT for communication, writing, reading, and math. Now, I want you to know that there's a lot more areas that we could consider for AT: organization, attention, all of those things, but we just didn't have enough time to address all of those today. Oops. Okay, so first, let's just take a minute to talk about the difference between educational and assistive technology. Simply, I just want to state that educational technology is that digital technology that we use to facilitate learning. It's available to all students, and it gives us tools for addressing the general needs of the classroom. But assistive technology is any item, any piece of equipment, any product, whether we've purchased it or whether we've made it, whether we use it, how we purchased it, or we modify it, anything that is used to increase, maintain, and improve the functional capabilities of children with disabilities. So that term technology is a little confusing because we think of technology, it has a plug-in, it has a battery, and that's just not always true. We have low-tech, mid-tech, and high-tech assistive technology, and anything that is adapted to improve your students' abilities is assistive technology. And so I give the example of, I was going to give an example here of, I forgot what my example that I was going to tell you the difference in, oh my gosh, okay, anyway, let's keep rolling, and if I think about that, I'll tell you in a minute. Okay, so assistive technology, let's just go on. Okay, so for example, I love the way they state it here: screen readers, voice recognition technology, optical character recognition, spell check, word prediction. These are all examples of assistive technology. That's not even, doesn't even begin to touch on all the different assistive technology that is out there. But all of these things can provide our student with independent access to the curriculum, where access would have otherwise been difficult, if not impossible. And I love that because we're going to talk a lot today about how assistive technology can give our students independence. And too often we have resistance to it because we think, oh no, it's going to keep that student from making progress and learning on their own. And it's really the opposite. It provides our student with some independence. This was my example. I'm so sorry, I just went blank. So our students that need tests read aloud to them, typically we have a human that pulls that student and reads that test to them. But if you think about as they get older, if we can get them using some type of technology, text-to-speech is the most common, that will read to that student, isn't that more independent? Isn't that giving them more independence than having that human pull them and read that test for them? So it's just a mindset that we really want to start thinking about how we can improve our students' independence. Okay, so what are the benefits of AT for students with autism? By giving our students AT, we can increase their independence with daily living, mobility, play, vocational, and academic tasks. We can increase their level of participation within tasks and daily routines. We can increase their access to materials, and we can improve their sense of self and self-esteem. We can also give them increased opportunities for inclusion with their peers. We can enable them to engage in purposeful, meaningful activities. We can improve their communication both verbally and non-verbally, and we can improve their ability to demonstrate skills and competencies. And the most important, what if we can give them access to the curriculum? Isn't that our main goal when they are in school? So these are just all examples of the benefits that could be for your students with autism when using assistive technology. So when we're looking at what assistive technology are we going to use, what do we need for this student, it's very overwhelming because there's so much out there. And so I love the way Mark Sarabian, I have him referenced at the end of this presentation. I watched a webinar recently, and I have that webinar linked from him. And he looks at AT as, we are not trying to fix the person. We're trying to fix the participation obstacle. And so we can look at that in 3 different ways, 3 different areas that is getting in the way for our student being able to participate. So we look at their challenge of input. How is that student, what's keeping that student from, or is it that the student is having difficulty receiving information that is coming to them from someone else? And this would be our students that are having trouble with letter and word and recognition skills, phonemic awareness, handwriting, note-taking, notation skills, listening and attention skills, resource and research building skills, physical skill, manipulation, and educational workplace tools. Okay, so this would be our student that's having trouble with input. And then we have the challenge of processing. This is the student's ability to mentally take in information and do something with it. This is our student that has language processing, focusing, organizational, auditory processing skill difficulty, visual spatial processing, retention, and problem-solving skills. And then we have the challenge of output. This is how a student is going to give that information back to others. And this is where our student has difficulty with their graphomotor skills that's needed for writing, spelling skills, written expression skills, science and math expression skills, expressive language, and spatial ordering. Now, you may be saying, my student has trouble with all of these things, and we know that we have those students that is the truth. That is just the truth. And so I love how Mark Sarabian talked about this in his webinar, and he said, we have to find that one thing. We have to find just one area that we're going to start, that we are going to fix that obstacle. And when we do, things begin to open up and click, and the child's world changes because they begin to gain confidence, because they have some success in one area, and then we can decide, what other assistive technology we need to incorporate. So it's just a great way of thinking which area is going to reach my student the most if we find some assistive technology for that particular challenge. Oh my goodness, my computer. Okay, so let's talk for a minute about some considerations for technology use for communication. Okay, so as Amber told you, I am an SLP, so this is my background. And by no means today can we talk about all there is to talk about in AAC. But what I do want to do is change your mindset for a minute of how you might feel about AAC. Because there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of myths about AAC, and I want to talk about those. First of all, a student does not have to be a certain age, a certain cognitive ability, or demonstrate a certain level of communication intent for us to begin trying AAC. This is just simply a myth. They do not have to demonstrate these things. All of our students, even our most challenged students with limited amount of skills that they're giving us, have some type of communicative intent. And that might just be a behavior. But they're trying to tell us something. And it is our job to shape that communication intent into some type of communication. And that can be done through different forms of AAC. So I just want you to know that that is not a myth. And if you look over to the right, that is not just how I feel. That is a statement. This is a statement coming straight out of ASHA, which is the American Speech Language Hearing Association. And there's been a lot of research and information put out on that idea. I also want to tell you that research supports that AAC does not keep a student from becoming verbal. I hear this all the time. I hear it from parents. I hear it from other SLPs, which really sometimes breaks my heart. And just know in their defense that, you know, some SLPs don't have a lot of training in AAC or assistive technology. And so sometimes there's a fear of it. And if that happens and that's the situation, just be sure to call on us and see if we can help support you and help support that SLP. But the research shows us that this is just simply not true. AAC is a multi-sensory way of stimulating language for our child. So now they have a way to hear it, to touch it, to see it. And if that student's going to be verbal, AAC is going to pull that verbal language out. Now, I'm not telling you that every student that uses AAC becomes verbal. So please hear me. That is not what I'm saying. What I'm saying to you is that if that child has the potential to be verbal, AAC is not going to keep them from becoming verbal. It is going to pull that verbal language out. And another thing that we run into a lot from SLPs, teachers, parents, is people say, oh, well, my student has a couple of words. They don't need that. Or they say, my student can have a conversation and they can pretty much tell you their wants and needs. But y'all, there is so much potential with AAC to teach students beyond one or two words, beyond one or two sentences. We can teach literacy, we can teach math, we can actually teach plurals and ing forms of words, and there's so much that we can do with the right AAC. So please do not let these ideas keep you from being open to your student having some AAC. AAC cannot only happen in the speech therapy room. It can't. And I'm going to show you some data on my next slide that I think will be astounding to you. It's just something we cannot do. And teachers, I challenge you. I really hope it's my goal to try to get teachers understanding how to model and use AAC across their classrooms as just kind of a UDL strategy. And UDL meaning Universal Design for Learning, because your students with significant disabilities have language delays. And so implementing that AAC modeling in your classroom across the board will be easier for you as you get students that need AAC, and all of your students could benefit from it. So it's just something that I hope you'll start thinking about. Also, I want you to know in the upcoming year with the learning challenges that we have, AAC can be implemented virtually. And I'm studying this a little bit myself and trying to find, what are the best strategies. But I know that the gurus out there do have some good information on how to do this. So don't decide for the beginning of this year that that's not possible. Okay, so this is the last thing I'm going to say about AAC, and I will move on, I promise. But I want to talk a little bit more about this, why AAC cannot just be implemented in speech therapy. And I want to share this data with this data with you. By 18 months, babies have heard 4,380 hours of spoken language, and we don't expect them to be fluent speakers yet. If an AAC learner only sees symbols modeled for communication twice a week in their speech therapy session for 20 to 30 minutes, they will be 84 years old before they've had the same exposure to aided language as that 18-month-old has had to spoken language. I get chills every time I read this because this is what we're doing. I did it. My colleagues are doing it. We do this, and we do it because we fear AAC. So I just hope that you can chew on that a little bit, and that if you need some help and need some training in AAC, that you will contact us and that we will help you get moving, because it is an important piece of assistive technology for our students with communication needs. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to look at is some considerations for assistive technology use for reading. Another big area. Most of my presentation is really talking more about high tech. However, I wanted to include some low tech for reading because I think these are some simple, easy things that are available to us that we are not using enough. And I just wanted to talk about those for a minute. A slant board, this is considered assistive technology. So these on this page, with the exception of the mid-tech device at the bottom, are examples of low-tech assistive technology, no plug-in, no battery, but they are considered assistive technology. A slant board for your students that might have trouble writing, and so they're putting too much pressure and it'll relieve pressure, or if there's a reason for their reading. The reading windows and the line guides are these little colored strips that if your student has a particular color that they tend to read better with, they can utilize these to help them as they are reading across the page to stay on the line. And there's a lot of talk about these different colors, and different districts are using some assessments that will determine, which colors is the most adequate for that student. I've heard a lot of people say, you just try one, you rate them, you do some data tracking on how well they do, you do a Likert scale and see how they feel about it. Really depends on your district and what procedures are in place in your district. But the colored filters, the colored tape, the tape gives your students a little more if they're studying and they need to use that color that sticks on there and is more stable. We have a lot of these in our centers. This is some low-tech stuff that we can bring to you easily. So just know that these are things that are available. This reading pen is probably one of the most underused tools that could benefit our students. And what this pen does is the student would be taught how to use that pen to drag along, and then they push a button and it reads that sentence back to them. Pretty simple. However, it has capabilities also. It has a dictionary, so if they don't know what a word means, they can drag it along that word and then get a definition, and it'll read it out loud to them. It also has a capability. I know the one that I have linked here has a capability for Spanish. I'm not sure about other languages. And I do want you to know that there are more available than the one that I have linked here. So that is just the most common one. And so you can click on that link and you can check out the video. It really gives you a whole new perspective on how your students could be benefiting from this reading pen. And what I want to say is we have to remember that we don't have to use low tech or high tech or mid tech. Your classroom should really consist of all of these. And if your student's using a reading pen at one time, they might be using text-to-speech later, and that's okay. We want that. So just know that it should be a combination of both. But check out that reading pen, because that is, and we do have some of these in our center. And so we would be glad to check those out as soon as we get our inventory together. Okay, so another big topic in reading is how do we make our text accessible for students who need to use text-to-speech or audiobooks. And so I wanted to talk for just a second about just what you may already have available to you. You may have a Kindle, you may have iPads with iBooks, and these are fine for some students. There's a lot of limitations to those. iBooks does have some text-to-speech in it, so it will read back to you, and it does highlight, and it has the ability to change the fonts and all those things that your text-to-speech tools do, but you're limited in that you have to just use, you're just in iBooks. So you can only use that for whatever you can access through iBooks. Kindle does not have accessibility, so it's truly just an audio book. So let's talk about where you can get access to these kind of text. And I'm first going to talk about Bookshare. Bookshare is, I'm going to click on this link. Bookshare is probably what most school districts are using if you're using something at all. But there is a lot of confusion about Bookshare, and I want to try to clear that up for a minute. But I want to show you that within Bookshare, okay, let me tell you what Bookshare is. Bookshare is free to any student. That is all the way through college, I'm pretty certain. Any student who has a reading disability or a reading difficulty. Now, qualifications for Bookshare is not equivalent to IEP qualifications for disability. And their wording can get pretty confusing to people. So if you look through here, through this website, and they talk about who qualifies for Bookshare. I'm going to use autism as an example. They specifically state autism does not qualify a student for Bookshare, and that is true. Having a diagnosis of autism does not qualify you for Bookshare. However, if a competent authority, and that competent authority is any teacher, any SLP, school psych, anyone that can sign off and say, that this student has some reading difficulties that are not at the level of the other students in their classroom. And then a student can have access. They just want, because they're under copyright laws, they just want to make sure that we're just not giving free books to everyone who doesn't want to go out there and buy a book themselves, okay? So they are under what's called copyright laws because they are grant funded, and their grant pays these publishing companies for every single copy that is giving out to students. Now, I just want to show you how this is a third grade anchor text. And I just want to show you that I put because of Winn-Dixie, and most all of these anchor texts and that Louisiana is using in the guidebook curriculum are already in here. But any AR book, anything that the student wants to read, if it's not here, Bookshare will add that. And I want to make this statement before I go on. I watched a webinar on Bookshare back in the spring, and she even talked about your high school students that are studying for taking their driver's license, getting their driver's license, and they are a student with reading disabilities, that their tests, a lot of the states have study guides that can be put into Bookshare, and your student can use Bookshare in order to study for their driver's test. So I thought that was really neat. One more thing I want to say about Bookshare. We're going to talk in a few minutes about text-to-speech. And Bookshare does have a text-to-speech feature within it. I can't log in because our organization isn't an educational organization. So we've been having, it is, but our email, our link doesn't show that. And so we're having to get some permissions to get a free login or not really a subscription, but you know what I mean. So I can't log in at this time, but when you do log in, one of the things that we recommend is you can use the text-to-speech feature right within Bookshare, but because your student is going to be using a text-to-speech tool that they could use more universally across any test, any website that they're reading, any worksheet you're giving them, anything, it's better for them to use that universal text-to-speech rather than a text-to-speech that's built into a program, if at all possible. And so we recommend that you download it as an EPUB and you save it to their Google Drive. Anyway, if you need help with this, please contact us. Anyone on our team can help walk you through this and get your students and your organization, your school, using Bookshare to access some digital text, which is really going to be important for your students with disabilities as we are moving into this virtual learning. Okay, let me get back to my presentation. Oops, sorry. Okay, so that is Bookshare. There's really lots of other places that you can get digital text, and a lot of them I don't know as much about because, like I said, Bookshare is really the most common one, but there is Overdrive. And it looks like it is just another place that you can get free ebooks. And so you're not paying for them. This might be a better place if you're using it as an intervention for a student. And so you're not tied to stating that they have a reading disability. It's just a place to check out. And then Learning Ally is an app. And what I like about it is it looks like it has like some comprehension and some, let's see, I thought that this was the one, but it looks like it has some other things that go along with just the text for the student to help increase their reading comprehension. So this is just another place. Again, I don't know a lot about this one. In Louisiana, we tend to see the most, in one way, we see the most use of Bookshare, and then in another way, I think it's very underused. So I know that's a little confusing. At the end, I share a document with you that has even more resources that you can check out for digital text. So just know that especially in this time, honestly, what I'm hoping is for our students that are having that have reading disabilities, that this situation we're in is going to open people's eyes and start using these digital text a little more frequently than we have been doing in the past. We're terrible about giving our students text-to-speech at the end of the year for testing, but not giving them that text-to-speech all year long. And things like Bookshare give us the capabilities of doing that. So let's talk about text-to-speech. This text-to-speech, there are a bunch of different products out there that support text-to-speech. And even your devices that you have available to you, even just within Google Docs, there's a text-to-speech feature. It's just that some of these products are created specifically for our students with disabilities, and they have more capabilities to them, more ability to change the speed that they're reading or the voice. They can change the font that they're reading, and there's just a whole lot more capabilities. What makes it text-to-speech different than just listening to an audiobook is that it's highlighting as it reads, both the full sentence and then the spoken word. And again, you can make some specific adjustments that meet the needs of your student. And then you can also use text-to-speech for auditory feedback when students are writing. So you could teach a student that has some writing difficulties when they're writing to use their text-to-speech, listen back, and then they can make their corrections. There's a lot of research, and I have the link here for the research to talk about how text-to-speech can improve reading fluency and comprehension. It can be used as a response to intervention, and we really are not good at this. We are really concerned about text-to-speech being marked as an accommodation on that IEP, and we can only give it when it's marked as an accommodation on that IEP. And we don't understand the flip-flop of we can utilize text-to-speech as an intervention, as a teaching tool. It only becomes an accommodation when we put it on that IEP and we now say they have to have it. And so you know, I know that's a hard thing sometimes for teachers to understand. So reach out to us if you're wanting to know more about how text-to-speech can be used for your students as an intervention. Now, most of your districts have a text-to-speech tool already purchased. A lot of them have a district-wide license. So your students are going to use whatever product your district has purchased most of the time. Some of the common ones out there are Reading Right for Google, and I've given you a link to that. Reading Right for Google, it has this toolbar. This is what your toolbar looks like, and the student has a lot of capabilities to have the text read aloud, to have word prediction, to use that line masking, which is this tool right here. These are highlighters. They can highlight vocabulary and then click on this tool and it'll make a vocabulary list with pictures and definitions. I didn't know that we hadn't really had enough time in this presentation to go and look at this. So I gave you a link to play around with it. Please call us. We can walk you through it. We can jump in on a Zoom and share our screen and walk through and show you how to do this. But Reading Right for Google is, it is used in a lot of our districts. Snap and Read is another tool that is used in a lot of our districts, and this is a product put out by Don Johnston. He, the owner of this company, has dyslexia, and so his products are really geared, you know, towards his experiences. And it's another great tool, does the same things, just a little bit different. Toolbar looks a little bit differently, and this one is also used, I think, yeah, this is the toolbar, just a little bit different. This is the button you use to read aloud. This will give you some text leveling, so it'll bring it down to a different grade level. This one allows you to, oh gosh, I can't remember. I think this one allows you to put it in an outline. And so there's just some different features of Snap and Read. So take a look at that one. And then Kurzweil, I am really not familiar with. I know Kurzweil's still on the IEP, and that's where we began years ago, but they now have an online version and an extension, and we have a few districts down in South Louisiana who are using Kurzweil. So just know that those are your text-to-speech supports, the most common ones. There are others out there, really underused, and really a great tool for our students, even just for a variety of reasons. So that's what to know about text-to-speech. Okay. Now, considerations for technology use for writing. Word prediction. Word prediction is really what you and I think of, and we have this in our phones when we're texting now, but our students can have this available to them when they're writing. And we have to break that mentality again, because people think, oh, well, if they have that word bank every time they type, how will they ever learn? And read the research, because it does build their written expression. It supports their verbal expression. It builds sentence structure. It extends their vocabulary. It helps those students that have spelling and dialectical needs. It gives verbal feedback for our students with reading disabilities, and it improves written fluency. There are so many benefits to using word prediction, even just as a treatment tool and maybe not as an accommodation, or then we're going to have those students that need it as an accommodation. Two different things, but can be used both ways. So again, the products that support this are really Reading Right for Google. So Reading Right for Google kind of has all of the text-to-speech, the word prediction, the speech-to-text all built into it, where the Snap and Read and the Co-Writer are both by Don Johnston, but Co-Writer is your word prediction tool, and Snap and Read is your text-to-speech tool. So, and again, Kurzweil encompasses all of that. So go take a look at those links, and look at the benefits of word prediction and how you can use those for your students. And I do want to say this, well, I'll say this in a minute. Okay, speech to text. Speech to text is also in Read and Write for Google, Kurzweil, and CoWriter. But there's also a speech to text feature right within Google Docs. It's just not going to have as many of the bells and whistles. One of the great things about CoWriter, and I need to play around a little bit with Read and Write for Google, because I wouldn't be surprised if they've not come a little bit further with this. But CoWriter has the ability to set the topic that your student's going to be writing about. And so it's going to predict some of the words based on the topic. So it's going to help. It's going to help. And I want to say this, it predicts, oh, well, I'm not talking about word prediction anymore. So, but CoWriter, so the speech to text portion of CoWriter is also a tool that you can use. Okay, so let's just talk about speech to text. It can also build written expression and verbal expression. It can build sentence structure. It can extend vocabulary. It can support those students with spelling and dialectal needs, give feedback for our students with reading disabilities, improve written fluency, support those students with weak fine motor skills, and that can include your students with dysgraphia. And that leads me to this last statement of, we have students that have a huge gap in what they can tell us and what they can write on paper. And a lot of times those students have dysgraphia, and speech to text is okay. It is test legal, by the way. That's what I was going to say a minute ago. We have there's a lot of confusion about that. And while text to speech is built into the LEAP test, speech to text isn't. And so, it is something that we have to do a little differently, and we have to go through some steps to get it in testing, but just know that it is test legal. Speech to text can be used to teach a student to do their academic writing. So again, look at the research, because there is a lot of research to support this. Okay. I do want to get to math. I know we're kind of running towards the end of our time. I would just want to show you some things that are out there for math. There's so much more. Again, at the end, there's going to be a document from Mark Sarabian that's going to show you some other math tools to check out. But I think so often people think, maybe for our students that have, and a lot of our students with autism have dysgraphia, or they have aversions to writing, that how can we do math, with technology? And we absolutely can. There are different add-ons through Google Docs. And if you're not familiar with add-ons, I just wanted to demonstrate to you how you get to them. So if you are in Google Docs, this is your toolbar. Add-ons is right there in your toolbar. If you click on that and you say get add-ons, and then you search for what you're looking for, this one came up, Math Type. And Math Type allows you to edit and create equations on your Chromebook, whatever device the student's using, through that Chrome or through Google Docs, okay? All right, this is the National Library of Virtual Manipulatives. This is, so if you look, this ranges all the way from pre-K to 12th grade, and it covers number and operations, algebra, geometry, and so forth. I circled here because this is what I clicked on, and this is what came available, the virtual manipulatives that were available for this range, for this grade range. I will tell you, I had some difficulty. I'm on a Mac and it was telling me, you know, couldn't download it because of Java and so forth, and I didn't have time to play with it anymore. So if you run into something like that, it's because of your system requirements, and you're just going to have to work through that. But it looks like such a great tool for our students to have, especially now that they might be doing some things on their Chromebooks or virtually. This could be a very, very helpful tool. ModMath is an iPad app. And basically it allows our students that have trouble with the math notation to write and solve math problems by touching the screen of their iPad. And what they do can be printed, it can be emailed, it can be saved to the cloud, just like Dropbox. And so you see they have a calculator with its functions at the bottom. They're touching it and it is coming up onto the math paper. So there are lots of other ones that'll do the same thing. I just wanted to show you some examples so that you would know that these tools are available. There is also Math Paper. This is another iPad app. It allows your students to do math independently without a pencil. It's good for your students with motor challenges. They can simply touch the screen and it'll do their math using number, symbols, operations. It's great for beginning math users and advanced math users, and it has special settings that can support each student's needs. So it's a great iPad tool to check out. Equatio. This is a product that is also made by our text help people, which is Reading Right for Google. It's a Chrome extension. Oh, it does everything math, makes it digital. Probably one of the easiest and best extensions out there for math. You can see here how you can benefit, how your students can benefit. Check it out. It is something that has to be purchased. So, you know, that's always sometimes a downfall, but look at it. When you're advocating for things that your student needs, this could be a tool that you want in your toolbox. Okay, so I think we're coming to the end of our time. I hope that if you've learned nothing else today, I know that really we just touched on some assistive technology. I just really was able to show you a little bit of what we have out there. I hope you know that we're here to support you. Even in this virtual world, we can do that, and we will be here to support your students that have some assistive technology needs. I just love this quote by Mark Sarabian. I keep referring to him because of this webinar that I watched recently, and he said this in response to people who oppose giving students AT because they're afraid it's a crutch. He says, "Do you keep a crutch from a person who has a broken leg? No, we give them the crutch because we want to increase their independence." And assistive technology is the same way. It is not a crutch. It is a road to independence that we're trying to give our students. And that, okay, so also I've listed here some resources, and I want to show you, I keep talking about Mark Sarabian. I want to show you his, this document that he put together. I love this. I will be using this. It lists all the different areas of assistive technology, note-taking, math, organization, and the most common things that he uses in his practice, the things that he finds the most beneficial for his students. And so please take a look at those because I think that you could find some real help and support there. This is just a link to that webinar by him. Since I referred to it so much in this presentation, I wanted to give you a link to that webinar. We might be getting him for our Click or Treat conference. I'm not sure. I'm working on that. The Center for AAC and Autism talks a lot about AAC and the benefits of AAC for our students with autism, particularly using motor planning, using a communication approach that includes motor planning. And then CAS.org is another place to go. Check out some good information. Oops, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, so be sure, if you want to know more about Louisiana AIM, that you also follow us on our social media. We have a Twitter, and we also have a Facebook. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for having me. Yes.
Thank you so much. We do have a few questions. Can you,
Yeah.
can you answer some questions for us?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so one person asked for a student, ASC has been like priming a pump for communication. How does technology be intentionally accessible in classrooms? Our experience is that the teachers were resistant to using it with our child even when it was specified on the IEP. Do you think maybe that might be a comfort level issue? Is it an accessibility to the actual equipment issue? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So did I understand you that you said the teachers have been resistant in using the AAC? And this is a parent?
Correct.
Yes, 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 yes. This is why when I talked about AAC, I was just trying to talk about mentality a little bit today. We're scared of it. And I'm telling you, there's SLPs that are scared of it. And we're scared of it because we don't have the knowledge of it. And so the resistance comes in the lack of understanding of it. And that's why I was talking about if we can possibly get our teachers to learn how to incorporate it into their teaching, incorporate it as a UDL approach, they can maybe become less fearful of it and just, and also let's face it, I know teachers that I'm not trying to put something else on teachers, but if they begin to use AAC, communication is the basis to all other learning for our students with significant disabilities. So yes, I am telling my districts, a lot of my districts right now, my answer is I can work with your SLPs all day long. But we have to get to your teachers. We have to. We've got to get them trained. We've got to get them incorporated in their classrooms. So my team is working on that. Please let us know if we can help in any way. But you're exactly right. That's what's holding it up.
Okay. Next question. Using AAC in virtual situations may help families incorporate more at home.
Yeah.
What ways can we work to possibly get more AAC in some of these home environments where they're choosing to do virtual for the beginning of school?
Yes, and that is going to be a whole new world for us. And again, I did mention that because I ran into a teletherapist that I spoke to just 2 years ago before we were even in this situation. And I said, well, how are you working with AAC on this student? And she was like, well, I mean, I can't because it's through teletherapy. And I was like, no, I'm not okay with that. Like, we can. I think it's going to be a great home school connection as far as using AAC because now the parent's going to learn how to use it at home. That's a whole, that's something that I'm even trying to study. There's a lot of webinars out there on how are we going to use AAC. I'm sure it's going to have something to do with some screen sharing and some modeling. The whole key to AAC is modeling, using it and modeling. And I do think that this situation that we're in where parents are going to be using it at home, it could help our AAC users begin using it more. Our problems are we've got to get devices in those students' hands. And I'm working on that as well. So contact us if we can help you with getting a student an AAC device at home. Contact me. Contact my partners. I'm not sure if I don't think I pointed out on that homepage, there's a contact us. And then each one of our not phone numbers, but our emails are listed. So contact us so we can support you in that way.
Hey, and thank you, Terri, for that. The next question for my student, he's 16 years old and has deficits in fine motor skills, but also motor planning deficits. This results in lost work, incomplete assignments, lower grades, lower self-esteem. We tried incorporating the Chromebook a couple years ago, but none of the therapists helped him understand how to best utilize it. Any tips on how to best utilize the Chromebook and also how to best present the case that a smartwatch could possibly help him? I think they're talking about like if the smartwatch is paired with the apps on the device.
Right.
The executive functioning type thing.
Right. Okay. So I don't have a lot of experience with the smartwatch, but I do have someone on my team, and that's the thing to know about our team. Like if we don't know the answer, we connect you to someone else on our team who does. We don't just stay in our area. We defer to a person who might help us. But in response to that question about the Chromebook and the fine motor, you know, it's the program that you're using within the Chromebook that's going to help the student. And so we need to make sure that that student is using word prediction. Are they using speech to text? And again, I think the resistance is just one, oh, we think we're giving them a crutch. Two, they're cheating. People think that. It's a mentality. It's a mindset. It's a lack of understanding. So again, connect them to us. Let us, and I will tell you this, we're trying, they're changing our delivery over the next 2 years, and we're trying to move to that, provide a training and then provide coaching, so that we don't just train people to do something, but we follow up and we coach them in how to implement it. So again, yes, I think that the lack of use of it is, one, the fear that we're giving them something they're not going to be able to have on that test. Two, we don't understand it ourselves. We think we're crutching them. And so it's really not the Chromebook. It's, are they using the right tool on that Chromebook? Are they using the right extension for writing? And so those are things that a consult from us can help you look through and determine.
Okay, our next question is, Bookshare only available to public education, or can this be accessed for families at home?
Oh, yes, no, it is available. So when you go to Bookshare, there's 2 different types of ways to join, and you can join as an individual or you can join as an organization. It's just a little trickier when it's an individual, because you still have to have someone, a competent authority, say that they have a reading difficulty or disability. But no problem. You probably can get someone within your school district to say that. So yes, you absolutely can have your own membership at home. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I want to commend you for bringing up that on that one slide we were muted so you couldn't hear us shouting amen about the cognitive level. That's, I think years ago, it seems like, and maybe earlier in my own practice, that was the school of thought, that, well, they got to have a minimum cognitive level to be able to use AAC. So because this child is, at this level, we're not even going to try it. And I appreciate you for really for touching on that, especially in clarifying that this is, there is no minimum cognitive level. This would benefit so many of our kids. And really give them access to the general curriculum and being able to meet their potential. So thank you.
And honestly, I'm not saying that it's easy, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that, but we definitely, you know, they're communicating to us. So we have to figure out how to help them, for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Terri, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You could put your email and your website